Peter doesn't actually have the black suit. I am here to tell you I have direct confirmation from the associate animation director. Miles is not taken aback at all at the fact that Peter has literal tentacles. Like, what's going on, everybody? In today's video, I want to bring you my breakdown of the gameplay we got for Marvel Spider-Man 2, talk about a couple of Easter eggs, and give you a little bit of some theories that I have as far as what we can expect for the game. Now, based on what I saw, a lot of you were enjoying my initial reaction to the gameplay that we got from the PlayStation Showcase this past Wednesday. If your introduction to me was from that video, please let me know down in the comments below. I would love to know. And if you subscribed after watching that video, just know that I appreciate you. Let me know down in the comments below because I would love to be able to thank you personally. Now, I want to start off this breakdown by saying, obviously, when the trailer initially first started, it felt like a really big bait and switch. I think a lot of us were like, this don't look like Spider-Man. I was guilty of literally saying it out loud in my live stream. But for a brief moment, you sit there and think that that first guy we're seeing is Kraven the Hunter until I heard him say the name Sergey, and then I realized we're about to see him. We finally got the design for Kraven. He looks absolutely amazing. We've actually had the, I believe, face and voice actor for him confirm on Twitter that he's had to hold this in for over 2 years now. His design looks great, it looks modernized, and did anybody else spot the man bun? Now, it's early in this part of the trailer that we get a good look at a few little Easter eggs. We see Kraven's minion showing him this monitor to showcase all the different villains and vigilantes of New York. The first little detail that stood out to me was that we get a glimpse of Yuri Watanabe's Wraith. Now, the last time we heard from Yuri was when she ended this dude's subscription to life in one of the City That Never Sleeps DLCs. And we all knew that that moment was basically hinting at the fact that she was going completely rogue and delving into the Wraith persona. This is our first time actually seeing Insomniac's adaptation of the character's design, and I don't really know what to make of it yet, but I'm sure we'll get a better look in the near future. Among others, we see Black Cat, Prowler, Tombstone, obviously the two Spider-Men. We also get a look at the silhouette of the Lizard, and in the bottom right you can catch Taskmaster, and then in the back we also see Shocker. Now, Insomniac Games, you know you have a moment to do something really funny with this.
Get back here, Shocker! Shocker! You can't escape me! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
And lastly, we do see a rotating screen showing a few members of the Sinister Six, including but not limited to Vulture, Rhino, Dr. Octopus, Electro, and Kingpin. No sign of Electro or Mr. Negative, but that's not to say that they won't make an appearance in the game. Now, once we jump ahead to 6 months later, we get our first look at a different borough of New York, with this location being set in Queens, which, as most of you probably know, is Peter Parker's hometown. And we get a quick look at Midtown High School, which was his old stomping ground. Some of you might remember that his high school t-shirt was actually one of the collectibles that you got in one of the backpacks in Spider-Man PS4. Now, the PlayStation blog post that came out immediately after this confirmed that Kraven soldiers were pulling up to Dr. Kurt Connor's house, which with Peter bursts out of the basement with the symbiote attached to him, ready to throw hands. There's a small detail that I don't know if many of you noticed. When the symbiote covers Peter and then pulls back to reveal his new suit, you notice those little heat waves kind of go off him? I felt like this was a subtle nod to Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Now, I know many of you know I am on record for calling this game Marvel Spider-Man Web of Shadows 2.0. Do I think that the story is going to necessarily feature multiple symbiotes and multiple people getting infected? No. But do I think that they are going to be taking inspiration heavily? Absolutely. Now, I've seen people really have a lot to say about the suit kind of having an armor look along with this organic, almost muscle tissue type combination. I'll get into some of my theories about that later. I think people got to remember, I believe it was confirmed that Peter would be upgraded to the armored advanced suit, and I think that the black suit just takes on the characteristics of whichever suit you are choosing in the game. I do believe that's going to be a feature that we have. So when it comes down to it, if you don't like the way the suit looks, you can just change it. After that, we get immediately into symbiote gameplay, and I definitely noticed a lot of new different fighting mechanics. It looks like Peter punches a little more, which I think will be a nice little addition. That is a crack that I had at Spider-Man PS4, is that it felt like the final game featured less fight animations than a lot of the initial gameplay footage that we were given. Fingers crossed that some of these stay in the final product. We also see that a new HUD is featured. You got your web shots over on the right, the health bar over on the left, and now you have an L1 and R1 in the bottom of the screen. R1 being a quick gadget wheel. It looks like we will have 4 pre-selected gadgets, and over on the left is going to be 4 pre-selected symbiote powers. Definitely like the new addition of the quick select gadget wheel. That way you can have multiple gadgets at once and you can kind of mix and match for your your own particular playstyle. PlayStation blog post also confirmed one of the things we saw where the symbiote actually looked like it did some type of shield and parry move for Peter against one of Kraven's soldiers. It is confirmed that the game will feature a new parry system, and some moves may not be able to be dodged and you actually have to parry them. Combine the perfect dodge with the perfect parry and we're gonna see a lot of great action set pieces all over social media. Along with a more aggressive fight style, it looks like we will actually at least maybe feature some type of wall takedown. I'm wondering if wall combat is a possibility. Spider-Man Web of Shadows 2.0. And I'm not sure if this is an ability unique to the symbiote, but it looks like we may be able to do more than just double takedowns in this game. Part of the coup de grace features that we got the ability to switch to Miles, which I think is what Najee Jeter actually meant when he kind of answered people on feeling like there was co-op within the game. I don't fully think he understood what people meant when they asked about co-op. I think he saw it as, will there be times that both Spider-Men are present and you're able to play as them and fight together? Whereas many fans were thinking like, no, like online, two people being able to play together. They hit us with not one, but two new traversal mechanics with the super slingshot, which slung Miles away, no pun intended, and the addition of the web wings. And I think it's super cool that not just Peter, but also Miles will have this mechanic. I think it's gonna fit a lot better than him venom dashing. That just didn't really seem to fit in Spider-Man Miles Morales. Between the slingshot and the web wings, the traversal's about to get crazy. More on that in my theories later in the video. Miles' animations in traversal and web swinging seem like they've had an overhaul as well, probably because he's obviously more experienced at this point. His portion of the gameplay trailer is used to showcase more of the stealth combat. It looks like we will be able to create our own walkways with this new web line, as well as being able to do double takedowns, which is going to be a super cool addition. I'm hoping that this lends to them really leaning more into the stealth combat, being able to take down bases fully stealth, not just having your cover blown after the first wave, for example. Another hope is that if you are caught within an area that you're trying to do stealth, that you can regain some type of incognito status. I know that it was possible in the previous games if you like swung away and then waited for a little while, but I mean being able to basically get out of there and then they just completely lose track of where you are. Now, one of the coolest animations that we saw once Miles blew his cover and went in guns blazing was he did this finisher where he seemingly looked like he hit a Kamehameha on the dude before slamming him into the ground. I am here to tell you I have direct confirmation from the associate animation director James Ham on Twitter stating that this was indeed inspired by the Kamehameha. Some people were also comparing it to Ryu's Hadouken from Street Fighter as well. I know this detail was painfully obvious, but it is cool to get 100% confirmation directly from a dev at Insomniac. I know it's not a reach to think that game developers would also cross over into the anime fandom, but it is just cool to see that they put that love into the game that they're making. It's kind of like Michael B. Jordan always putting anime inspiration into movies that he's a part of. Now, the next point I want to go a little bit deeper on is when Peter busts through the ceiling, tendrils full blazing out of his back, and Miles just hits him with a hey.
New threats?
I have a theory that this is not the interaction that actually occurs in this moment. Like, Miles is not taken aback at all at the fact that Peter has literal tentacles, like more tentacles than Doc Ock coming out of his back right now. More than likely, this is very similar to when we got the first demo for Spider-Man PS4, and the dialogue between Kingpin and Peter is different. Some of the things that Peter and Yuri talk about when in the final game, Peter was actually talking to Jefferson, not Yuri, or the fact in that demo he went up against Mr. Negative, and in the game you're just going up against one of the demons. Tell you what, my theory, Peter doesn't actually have the black suit in this part of the game. I think that what we're seeing is some early-ish to midpoint of the game, and they just put the black suit in here so that we could get some of the gameplay and kind of get a hint at how the black suit's gonna be changing Peter, and that's it. If the dialogue with Miles does happen and he mentions having new threads, maybe the black suit looks different and it doesn't have full tendrils coming out of his back in the final product. That's the best that I can say, but again, it's just a theory. Side note, Insomniac wasn't afraid to lean in on how the symbiote is affecting Peter, and it's working. Was I the only one who was ready to square up? Like, Peter kept cutting Miles off and being short with him, and I was like, hey bruh, Chill on him. Now, earlier in this gameplay trailer, Genki makes a comment that isn't Lizard skin shedding a sign that he's growing, and boy was he right. We get some short glimpses of Lizard and he looks massive, almost like a dinosaur. He's got giant spikes on his back. He's completely towering over everything he gets near. In the chase after Lizard, Miles and Peter both get a show of the different swinging and fighting combat animations that they're gonna get for these different chasing set pieces, and some of them look pretty cool, some of them look a little bit of the same, and that's okay. Obviously, we have another moment that really makes me believe that the switches between Peters and Miles are only gonna be contextual, not necessarily at will. And if there are moments that it's at will, it's at specific points in the story where you need to switch back and forth between the two. Otherwise, I think we're gonna be switching between each of the Spider-Man via cutscenes. Nearing the end of the gameplay, we have a few details that lead into some theories that I have. First off, you remember Bully McGuire? Well, it looks like we're gonna get full-on Bully Lowenthal in Marvel Spider-Man 2. Look at the way he tosses this dude down. Now, it is after this, Peter makes remarks of "he got away from us." And it doesn't feel like he's talking to Miles. It feels like he's talking under his breath, kind of to himself. Or rather, the symbiote. After he says this, you can actually see his eye lenses ripple a little bit. Couple that with being incredibly short and really rude to Miles and Genki. On top of all this strange behavior, Miles makes the remark after he says he's gonna go it alone after Lizard that, "Are you sure he's got big teeth?" To which Peter replies,
"So do I."
Now, going into the theories, one of the biggest running theories is that what if Peter is going to be our Venom in Marvel Spider-Man 2? Which I don't think is a far cry, because one of the things that people have made comments on is the look of the suit and how it has moments where you can see parts of it are moving. The theory I'm leaning into right now goes to what I said earlier, how people aren't really liking how it's kind of this half armor, half fleshy look. I'm wondering if we see stages of the symbiote suit. I wonder if we start to see it become more flesh-like, more alive, and that's gonna kind of be where we see Peter shift into almost being an adaptation of Venom. I know for most people it was his eyes when he turned Miles and said, "So do I," but it was that eye ripple I saw while he was talking to the symbiote that makes me feel like he's gonna get a little Venom-esque. Do I think that Peter is going to be full-on Venom? No, I don't. The reason I say this is because they heavily leaned into making us speculate that with this gameplay trailer, and so I feel like it's yet another bait and switch type of deal. Sure, are we going to get Peter probably as close to being Venom himself as we've ever seen? I do think that's a possibility. But Marvel Spider-Man 2 is Peter's story, so I don't see it ending with him and Miles going at it. I feel like we see them go at it, and eventually that gets resolved, and then they gotta come together to defeat the symbiote itself. And that, of course, is in the form of Venom as we know him. Obviously, as they reveal the title screen and they reveal the kind of slogan for this game, which is "Be Greater Together," they drop the hint that Miles is going to be a key at getting the symbiote away from Peter. Each time the symbiote is going to cover the Spider-Man symbol, and when it's going to cover the word "together," we see blue electricity flash and then the symbiote disappear. This is them dropping a little breadcrumb for us that Miles' Venom powers are going to be essential when it comes to getting the symbiote unbonded from Peter. Can you imagine boss battle against Peter? It makes sense. It would be an absolute parallel between Spider-Man PS4, which ended with Peter going up against his mentor, Dr. Otto Octavius. But again, it would make sense that that's not the final battle with the symbiote as far as Marvel Spider-Man 2 goes. While we're already in theory talk, since we do have the super slingshot and the web wings, I'm wondering if we see the addition of air tricks in tandem with the swinging tricks that we already have. We do see Peter and Miles both do some air dodging while they're gliding after the enemies in the chase scene. So I think couple that with just the tricks that we already have from swinging, I'm sure that there's at least some small additions of little tricks you can do while gliding. I sprinkled a lot of my theories throughout, but one final theory that's just a complete Hail Mary right now. I'm wondering if we see some adaptation of that interaction between Peter and Kingpin, where Peter straight grabbed him by his bare chesticles. Sure, there's no Aunt May to get hurt, RIP, but I think it would just be a pretty cool Easter egg. And speaking of Aunt May, that's like the last question that I have is, what do you guys think about there not being an Aunt May to ground Peter after what we are sure to expect is his kind of fall from grace that is caused by the effect the symbiote has on him? Sure, he's got Miles and Mary Jane, but normally there's always that parental figure there to kind of bring him back to reality after he gets rid of the symbiote and he has to come to grips with the effects of anything that he's done. I'm really interested to see how Insomniac handles that one. If you're interested in seeing some other gameplay predictions and theories, check out this video here. I made it months ago, so let's see if I was right about anything that I talked about all the way back then. Thank you guys so much for all the love on the recent Spider-Man videos. There will be more to come. Be sure to hit the like button if you did enjoy this one, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I will catch you in a future video. Peace out.